So I'll start off with what this isn't going to be. It isn't going to be a presentation about what the men did in Spain. It's a celebration of these people themselves. And we'll start off with the first one, who's actually in the we will start off with some film footage of them in Spain. So this is the first company, has a banner, the major athlete company. Sam Wilde is the one who's crouching down there. You'll see him a few times through from it. And then this is this footage of them in 1938. The last one you see here is the character you're going to see. This is Bob Cooney that you're going to see, the one in the flying helmet. This is Sam Wilde on here as the commander. That's the first one we're going to look at. But this is footage of them in Spain when Harry Pollock came and visited them for the fourth time. Visited them 4 times in Spain. This is from my friend Marshall Mattia. He's done a really footage of them returning from Spain, which is something that we're trying to work out in December. We're going to use that. So this is footage of the return from Spain, and then there's a short clip of Harry Pollock, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, who was actually speaking to them in Spain. And this is before the Battle of the Edinburgh. And then you have when he's inspecting them, and again you've got Sam Wilde, who is actually inspecting, and Harry Pollock giving some speeches. So this is just one of this fantastic footage that you don't normally see. It's not normally available. So, So we start off with Sam Wilde. Sam Wilde, born in Manchester, finest commander of the British battalion, according to Bob Cooney and everybody else. Here we go. And what we have is, because we're doing music and poetry, I found some audio of Sam actually reciting some poetry, a very short section, but I apologise, this one, again, the quality is not particularly good.
That gave me a feeling, listen, our God, deep. You know, you have the romantic idea of India, Mexican, whatever. But when I see peasant, artisan, casual worker that stands up with dignity and asserts his dignified authority, it burned me up. Perhaps I'm influenced by Robbie Burns, when he said in his Man was made to war. If I am your lordly slave, by nature's creed designed, wild and independent wish planted in my mind.
The quality of it is, and he talks a lot about the fighting and the quality of the men that he was with. But this next picture that you see, and this is his son Mike Wilde, me in the middle, and then the author of Remember Me to My Comrades, Mike Crowley, who's actually got his previous one there. This is in Manchester in 2023, when we were at the International Brigades Memorial Trust AGM.
Microphone's gone off.
So what I'll do next is I'll actually do, keep going the wrong way.
Now 3 score years and 10 hours past, the
olive tree of these is green at last, and you who took the flag and carried on the fight, know as we did that the cause was right. From many lands and tongues we came, and no one came for private gain. Mines and mills and ivory towns joined the struggle that we knew was ours. We were not dukes or mindless slaves. We were not pawns in some great game. We were at war, and yet we were to join the fight for freedom and release. So if they ask you why we came, what brought us here to fight for Spain, the only answer we would say, our open eyes can see no other way. So this earth in which so many lie, I sow the seeds that must not die, and let the people live as one, that all may take their place beneath the sun. And if they ask you why we came, what brought us here to fight for Spain, the only answer we would say, our open eyes could see no other way.
So we're on. Right. And the title of that is Our Open Eyes Could See No Other Way, and that's what we've actually got as a line on the Stockton International Brigades Memorial. We've actually got that put on Our Open Eyes Could See No Other Way, which is actually the phrase that we've actually got onto the plaque, and it was a link to Mike and Sam Wilde really onto our Stockton Memorial. So the next one in the character, one of the other characters that we've got in the book is a guy called Bob Cooney, who was the political commissar from the International Brigades, the last political commissar. And I talked about them coming back from Spain. When they arrived in Victoria Station, Sam Wilde gave a speech and Bob Cooney gave a speech on behalf of the men of the British Battalion. And this, as you can see, Bob, actually born in Sunderland, but 2 years old, his family moved back up to Aberdeen, where they come from when his father died. So he's an Aberdonian, a member of the, he went to the International Lending School with George Brown, who was the Manchester district organiser of the Communist Party. And this is the ones, again, Sam Wilde always crouching that you see. I'm sorry, I'm going to use this. This is Sam Wilde here, crouching with Bob Cooney here. And this is actually the Battle of the Ebro, one of the ones who from it. And why do we got Sam Wilde on? Bob Cooney. Because of Neil Cooney, he's given us access to a poem written by Bob in 1961. But Bob's also might be known for a couple of people from the folk music because he joined with the Campbell family in Birmingham, and he's actually on a couple of the recordings. But this is, and I apologise, this is a really poor quality recording, but rather than actually me reading out the poem, I think it was worthwhile just for the occasion to actually you hear him hearing you. I apologise, it won't be very clear, but at least you'll hear Bob Cooney reciting Hasta la Vista Madrid.
Hasta la Vista Madrid. 700 years It seems that yesterday we left that old farm hill above Colchester. Isn't perhaps because I'm growing old, the thought now sticks so lightly down the years, and the carrying of our thoughts things like mouth to the brim of those great days. Those days we lived and knew that we were living. We were at war, and yet we were at peace. We knew the peace we had that known at home, where conscience gnawed and conflict raged within us. Back home, we woke each morning to the thought of Spain. Spain in our thoughts all day, and influenced our whole night. Disturbing thoughts, reproaching thoughts, all was no longer home, for we were in the rear of a battle right at the front. Comrades we've never seen, yet knew and loved. How knew it for one? Leaving the earthly crops to reap a different, bigger harvest. Fighting a war we knew was rightly ours, since the fascists found their way to sustenance from the rotten soil of Clyde, making England a dirty mark. Our country had to be cleansed, solely in this state, where the defeat of Hitler started, and more than that, for freedom is an infectious thing. No frontier can contain it, and many a freedom fighter who served to stand apprenticeship in Spain proved their militia craftsmen in later battles in the Hitler arena, in Italy and France, in the old Yugoslavia, in Germany itself, even in far Cuba. Men who learned their craft in Spain communicated skills to a newer generation of freedom fighters, giving this proof. This guarantee, no freedom fighter ever really lost while folk can learn. Each human mind their post, and the frontiers of freedom expand. Conquering minds and hearts, traveling to the conquest of cities and of states, till the world will be wholly free. Then, folk will fight for higher freedom still. What would God to be will see today, as he sits and broods, lonely and afraid in his palace, now his softly gaily fierce grief. What does he see? Hitler? Gone. Mussolini? Gone. The Pizza? Gone. Who goes next? Salazar? Or perish the Lord? But the thought won't perish. In London today, in Paris today, in Warsaw, Prague, and Rio de Janeiro, there are men and women, every 720 years. But today, there is a splendid step and a meaningful phrase on the lips, a phrase that is more than a phrase, it is a promise to Spain, to themselves and to each other, and a promise to you, querido. Hasta la vista, Madrid. How will your promise to you, don't you be there, would like to know, for we are coming to. We also say, hasta la vista, Madrid. There is so much we want to see once more. We will strong thought in Moscow, and around the Barcelona. We will cross the river and drink with our friends in Mora. Friends who will be free. We will look at them and at each other, and each of us will think, this is why we came in 36. And we built to be unconquered. We were built to be lifted. We went in Spain. Because of that great yesterday, we are part of the greater dawn. Hasta la vista, Madrid.
Well, that's remarkable considering that that from that on you both prepared 7 minutes of thought. I didn't remember how many years ago it was since you wrote that.
It was written for the 27th anniversary of this Polish war, since here in London. That was in 1964.
In the book, the correspondence that we have is is very unique in the fact never been published before. This is letters that Bob Cooney's written to Brigade, because the commissar was basically like a welfare officer, so he's actually reporting on the morale of the men. It's quite important for that. Some wild ones are, again, mainly reports, but also letters home to the Manchester Comrades. The next one that we're going to, the next character that we're going to look at is unique. This is Herb Hodgson, who was born in Middlesbrough, and he was in the British Battalion for a year, arriving in February 1938, and was repatriated when the whole of the British Battalion was repatriated. And whilst he was in there, he used his ID card as a diary. This is one of the first entries. You can actually see the photograph of him on there with his address at Gravetown. But inside he's actually got poetry, he's actually got lists of some of the men that he served with, the ones that have been killed, the ones who have been wounded. He's got some accounts of effects and some of the news. He's used it, and with a great pleasure, I'm actually going to introduce you to Elaine, who will talk about her father. Keep going.
Read the poems as well?
Yes, please. So this is, you can see one of the poems is actually part of his from here. Yeah.
So, so I'm Elaine. Bert Hodgson was my dad. I'll get behind the microphone. I'll give a little pen picture of Dad. I'll try not to replicate what's in the book. Let me know if you've got any problems here, because I'll probably move away from the mic accidentally. So just let me shout it. So Dad, Bert Hodgson, was born in 1917, one of 9 siblings. And he was born in Warrenby, just outside of Redcar. And as usual for working class families in those days, they lived in extreme poverty. In winter, the elder children carried the younger children to school on their backs because they couldn't afford shoes. He left school at 14 years old, which was the norm in those days. And in February 1938, when he was just 21, he went to fight fascism in Spain. He was motivated by self-education and self-politicisation. Even though he had no formal education, he could see the rise of fascism in Europe. And he joined the British battalion, travelling down to Southampton and then across France in a cattle truck and hiking over the Pyrenees with other recruits. And this was despite the non-interventionist policy that the British government had at that time, which declared it illegal to do what he did. So Dad fought at the Battle of the Ebro. He kept battlefield notes in what we've always referred to as a family as a diary, but as you can see, it was actually his International Brigade identification documents. And he wrote things like the names of comrades who fought alongside him, who had died or had been injured, he recorded things like being aware of intensive bombing from German planes overhead. So very much a kind of a live recollection of what he was experiencing and what his comrades were around him were experiencing. And as I say, it was, I guess, a testing ground for the Luftwaffe, bombing them to bits. He also wrote down various verses from poetry that reflected his beliefs. And I think it's quite interesting, really, when you think about this evening and poetry and song, how the Spanish Civil War was referred to as the Poets' War, referencing poets like Stephen Spender and John Cornford, when in fact a lot of that poetry, inspired and underpinned the experiences of just, as I say, uneducated working class people like my father. And we still have his diary. I've got it at home, nearly 90 years old. Dad was shot in the back at the Battle of the Ebro. There was a wound on each side of his spine where the bullet entered and exited, so it's miraculous he was not more severely injured or died. And he was hospitalised in September 38 and repatriated after everybody else because he was still in hospital. Dad talked little about his personal experiences in Spain, and I think that was common for that generation, but also because it had been traumatising. One of his sisters once remarked to me that he'd been very depressed after his return. Myself and my 3 siblings were born relatively later in his life, the youngest one born 25 years after his return. But nonetheless, his memories of Spain were very much alive in our day-to-day lives in various little ways. He'd somehow managed to bring home from Spain his leather ammunition belt, complete with several bullets, and it hung inside of the pantry door for years. One day it suddenly disappeared, and I remember Mum told us he'd thrown it out. And I think this was during an episode of his ongoing sorrow and ongoing difficulty coping with memories. Thanks. I'll probably knock it over rather than drink it, but never mind. I remember he described an experience when a comrade walking alongside him was shot in the throat and died. And I remember just coming out with that, describing it. He recounted how food was scarce. He said they were starving, and they subsisted by eating snails from the ground as they walked over the Pyrenees to enter the country. As well as the horrors Dad suffered, he also carried with him a lifelong love for Spain. As children, every night at bedtime, he wished us, "Hasta la vista, buenas noches." Until we meet again, good night. We had the occasional bottle of Spanish wine called Tarragona from the Ebro region, and wine was neither usually available nor affordable to us in the late 1950s, early 1960s, but we found it. Similarly, Mum was sent on an unsuccessful shopping trip for olive oil for cooking, but was only able to find a tiny bottle of pale yellow olive oil at the chemist shop, meant for medicinal purposes, not cooking. But these were attempts to re-experience his love for Spain. He remained a staunch socialist and was politically active throughout his life. Through his individual efforts and within trades unions, he worked as a steelworker in the steelworks. One day in Middlesbrough in the 1970s, I was returning to my car in a car park when I spotted Dad placing leaflets on car windscreens. He had composed a leaflet warning of the dangers of the National Front who were just coming to prominence, and he'd had these printed at his own expense. He always spoke his mind and was without compromise in his principles. He continued a lifelong self-education. Our home was full of books, including those from the left-wing book club. He had a vast knowledge and understanding of national and international politics. He read Marx, Engels, and philosophers Spinoza, Hegel, and others. He was always at the local library and read poetry and Russian literature, which he recited aloud to us. Friends and relatives have recounted how he was inspirational to them in these respects. He did not keep in touch with his International Brigade comrades. I'm unsure why, but I think again the trauma of his experiences and the difficulties in maintaining communications, travel, etc., all those years ago may have played a part. However, he was aware in 1979 that his International Brigade comrade Otto Estensen from Stockton had died, and Dad asked me to take him to his funeral at the crematorium in Middlesbrough, which I did. The following year, in 1980, Dad himself died, aged 63 years. He never managed to return to Spain, dying only 5 years after the end of fascism there. Amongst his last words, he told me that I should go to Spain for him and touch that red earth. In 2024, my sister and I were able to visit La Fataraya, a mountain village in the Ebro battlefields, where a memorial forest to the International Brigades and other Republican fighters has been created and maintained by the Catalan anti-fascist organisation Lo Rio, in collaboration with the German association KFSR. There we were able to place a plaque on a pine tree dedicated to Dad, the first and only British brigadier to have one there at the time. Our utmost thanks go to Tony for initiating this for us. Finally, I'd like to read excerpts from 3 poems special to Dad. The first 2 he recorded in his battlefield diary. I will take a sip of that water if you don't mind. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. So the first excerpt is from a poem called To the Wife of a Non-Interventionist Statesman by Edward Rookwood. Dad just wrote the first verse in his diary. I'll read another couple as well. From small beginnings, mighty ends, from calling rebel generals friends, from being taught in public schools to think the common people fools. Spain bleeds and England wildly gambles to bribe the butcher in his shambles. And it ends. Traitor and fool's a combination to low wifely estimation, although there's not an act in force making it grounds for divorce, but canon law forbids at least cohabitation with a beast. And the victims of the air bombing on civilian targets are depicted thus: 500 dead in 90 seconds is the world record so far reckoned. 100 children in one street, their little hands and guts and feet like offal around a butcher's stall, scattered where they'd been playing ball, because our ruling clique's pretences robbed loyal Spain of her defences. The next is an excerpt, a stanza from a poem by Byron, from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. And again, just amazing, I think, that that would be known to people in Dad's position. So the first stanza he wrote, the first excerpt he wrote in his diary, and my sister and I put this excerpt on the plaque in the pine forest in Spain. Awake, ye sons of Spain, awake, advance. Lo, chivalry, your ancient goddess cries, but wields not, as of old, her thirsty lance, nor shakes her crimson plumage in the skies. Now on the smoke of blazing bolts she flies, and speaks in thunder through yon engine's roar. In every peal she calls, awake, arise. Say, is her voice more feeble now than of yore, when her war song was heard on Andalusia's shore? And lastly, in Dad's writing, a verse of a poem by an American writer and artist and labour activist called Ralph Chaplin. Mourn not the dead that in the cool earth lie, as dust unto dust. That calm, sweet earth that mothers all who die, as all men must. But rather, mourn the apathetic throng, the cowed and the weak, who see the world's great anguish and its wrong, but will not speak. That's it. Thank you.
Sorry. There we go. And yes, so this is actually that footage, and I think it's remarkable that we actually have these documents. And again, I keep going the wrong way, sorry about that. So the next character we're going to look at is, well, these two are inseparable. There's only one picture in Spain where these two are together. So you've got Tommy Childers and Otto Estenson, Tommy Childers, Otto Estenson, and for a change, Otto Estenson and Tommy Childers. This is in red curtain, and this is when they're working together as merchant seamen. And I think I'll leave it up to Tommy to actually explain how they went to Spain.
I've been interested in politics for a long while. I've been at sea. And Paul Brown went to Spain with me, Otto, became company commander for a while. He was, I would say, my mentor in this sense. And we together saw the development in Germany. In fact, we stood, when the Tsar became German, we stood with our arms and hit the salute and then taken down. We'd been told by the immigration authorities not to go ashore. We defied them and went ashore. We were already in contact with anti-Nazis in Germany. Actually, Otto and myself were colleagues in the sense taking over information that the Germans couldn't get hold of. And it was this and the development and seeing this happening. The lights were going out. We thought of this long before it was first voiced by people like Churchill. The lights were going out, we could see it. And the annoying thing was to come home and find no one, very few interested, and still the remark would be that, oh, it's been big Middlesbrough, 2-0, more interested in that. Very apathetic and very annoying to people who were involved in politics. And from then on, of course, it was just a matter of time when the Spanish War developed in the beginning. It started with the strikes of the Spanish seamen in port. This is when I was speaking Spanish. I was able to go around and distribute cigarettes and that kind of thing. And all the Spanish seamen throughout the world were on strike. And this was part of the origins, the start of it all. So when the actual outbreak came, it was a matter of time before when the call went out from the French Maurice Torres, I think was the one who first organised the national games. It was more or less automatic that Otto and I would make our minds up and go together. Over here,
what we have here is, the first one we're going to look at is Otto Estenson. This is a photograph of a wedding, and with him is Sir Maurice Sutherland, Maurice Sutherland at the time there. The Otto and Maurice actually married sisters. The picture in the middle is actually a letter that Otto wrote to Tommy from Spain, and it's actually talking about some various things, and it ends wonderfully of when we get back, we're going to have a steak dinner and that type of thing. And this image here is a drawing. It's a drawing by James Allen, who is Otto's grandson, and it's hanging on the wall of Elizabeth's home in London. From that, and I'm very pleased that she's actually allowed me to have this and I deal with James. But I'm even more pleased to actually introduce you to Sutherland, who's actually his father's on a picture here. Do you want to step forward and talk about Otto? Yep.
Okay, is that fine for everybody here? Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to give a couple of little stories about my uncle. As you can see, this is my mother, the lady next to my father, and then of course Otto and Eleanor, who were my aunt and uncle. And I used to go around there every Friday night for tea. And I was given an Eagle comic, my cousin was given a Bunty comic, and all the Eagle comics got thrown away, which is very sad, isn't it? He eventually ended up, he ran away to sea at 14-year-old, and he then sort of progressed, eventually got his master's ticket, and being very actively involved with the Communist Party and very much against the Nazi regime. He and Tommy decided to volunteer for for the Spanish Civil War, and he told me a couple of little stories about this. My cousin sadly can't be here tonight because she's not very well, and she would have had a couple more stories. But he was quite a gentle sort of quiet man, which you wouldn't have expected for somebody who was volunteering to fight in the British brigade. And so what happened was, he tells this lovely story about when he's walking down an olive grove, and he has a revolver in his hand, and as he steps up, he sees a guy about 200 yards away shooting. And as he brings his hand up, the bullet goes through the hand, impacts on the gun, the bullet goes straight down and ends up near the femoral artery, which is in here, and of course it just lodged there. So he said, John, I thought I'd better get back to the other side of the valley. So he walked and hobbled all the way back to the side of the valley, and he leant up against a rock, looked across the valley again. The same guy shoots at him again, and the bullet goes just across the top of his feet. And he turned to me and he said, John, I think it'd be a good idea if I left. And so he left the scene, and he went to an ambulance station or a hospital. But at that time they had no anaesthetics. So the doctor in charge took the bullet out with no anaesthetic, which I think is quite impressive, really. And he was back on the front within 3 weeks. And he was actually part of what's called the anti-tank brigade, which is in a way quite an elite little group in actual fact. And they had a Russian anti-tank gun. And he became eventually a lieutenant, initially a sergeant and then a lieutenant because of the casualties. And what he did was he and some colleagues were actually pushing this, I shouldn't laugh really, pushing this gun up the street. And one of the guys decided to stick his rear end out behind the shield. And they said to him, don't do that, because you'll get shot. And he ignored them, so he got shot in his bottom. And I don't suppose he was very happy. And then when he saw other little events as well, where in fact he directed a gun, but he stood in front of it, and he was directing the gun all day, and he made him go deaf in his ear. And I think he kept that very quiet. I think he had partial hearing, but it deafened him for a while, and then it came back. And then, of course, when the war ended, he came back home, and the British government sent him a letter saying, could you pay for your cost? And he said, I'm not paying that, and threw it in the fire. But as a person, he was a very gentle, sort of quiet man, as I said before. And he eventually ended up working in my father's office. To this day, I don't quite know why, because I thought he'd been a marvellous pilot on River Tees or something like that. But that's what he did, and he kept he wouldn't say a lot. I think there's a couple of stories I knew my cousin was never told about. And he kept a lot to himself. It's very common. My father was in the Second World War. He didn't like to speak about it, or didn't like to speak about it either. And it's just one of the facts of life, I think, that they sat on a lot of emotional turmoil. And I think pretty unpleasant situations as well. But he retained his political views, etc. And as I say, I just knew him as a quite a friendly uncle who would be around for tea on a Friday. And me and my cousin used to be pampered and with sweets and things. Very nice too. And that basically is really what used to happen. And even to this day, I find it quite amazing that people volunteer for a belief that they believed in so strongly, they were willing to risk their lives. And I think it's very commendable. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Yeah, John and Otto are very modest. These are paintings by Otto himself. James has allowed me to actually show these. You can see there is he was a seaman. We talk about them in the Spanish Civil War. I'll talk about this a little bit later. In the Second World War, because they weren't allowed in the Royal Navy, the people who served in Spain weren't allowed in the British Armed Forces initially. They went into the Merchant Navy, which there'd been merchant seamen before Spain and in the Second World War. Otto was actually on an Arctic convoy which was travelling from Spain. It was due to go to Murmansk. It was part of the Arctic convoy. He was on the Atlantic convoy, and he met Tommy Chilvers in Iceland. And Otto's convoy was actually diverted to the Persian Gulf because the previous one, PQ-17, PQ-17 has actually been annihilated. Of the 38 ships, only 8 of them have actually got through. So they actually cancelled the Arctic convoys, and Otto was due to be on the next one and didn't actually go through. But as John said, they were actually members of the prestigious, and this is one coming out. There we go. Otto was a member and actually did command. He became commander of the 15th International Brigade. It wasn't a battalion one, it was for the International Brigade, all the English speakers and brigade, which was 4 battalions as the anti-tank battery. They were given 3 45mm Soviet guns. And this is Otto in the middle with his mandolin, going before me. He'd actually commanded. What we have here is, because Tommy Chilvers was also a member, is they actually wrote a song, and this is Tommy singing the anti-tank song.
Recording the military idea, some of the actions should help to revive the memories of those hectic days we were now commemorating when we were young. However, 1974 as a principle, and I trust the interruption was not far too much the enjoyment of your memorable day. So first, either leave, either low. Otherwise, that's the tank song. To make the things small again, and to chase the foxes most of all the hill goes like most of the sense of time stumbled off the days till we walked along down, blew on to match the roads having back up to do for all the people of the workers' cause is going
I've actually got, from the Russian archives, I've actually got a songbook, and the lyrics in that is actually a book that was actually printed in 1938, so we know that it wasn't produced later on, it was actually sung in Spain by certainly the British Battalion. And this is Otto and Tommy, and this is the 15th International Brigade anti-tank battery where you have from it. What you have here is this guy, which you just done a little bit later. We'll go through from it and we'll see. So this is evidence that we have from it. As I said, Otto initially was done as a sergeant, and he was number 2 on the 3rd gun. Tommy, for the first time they were separated, Tommy for 2 weeks was not a member of the anti-tank battery. Until Otto persuaded them to actually employ him as part of the anti-tank, and he became a cook, and he was wounded at the battle of the very first engagement at the Battle of Brunette, but we'll go on to that a little bit later. We have this fantastic document. This is a painting by Tommy Chilvers. It is held by the Martin Moore Library in London, and it is a reproduction, and you can see he's actually used some aspects from the photograph. So you've got Miles Tomlin playing his recorder here that you have from it. There's a photograph that we have of them actually carrying the guns up a hill that we have from it. The story that John talked about the guy who got shot in the backside is actually John Goodfellow, and it was the Battle of Quinto, where they were actually descending on the church in the middle that had a machine gun in it from it, and we know exactly that there's actually other accounts of how he was wounded, so we know this. Again, one of these unique documents, and it's just one of these skills that Tommy has that we have from it. So this is Tommy Chilvers, who also served in the anti-tank battery. This is him as a first officer on the SS Baffin. This is them on the SS Eston. Prior to Spain, this is Otto playing his mandolin again. This is Tommy playing the guitar. This picture here is the Teesside International Brigade Memorial, which was produced in 1939, and it was Tommy Chilvers who did the lettering on it. It was produced by a guy who actually went blind, a carpenter who went blind immediately after producing this. But it was Tommy who actually did the lettering to it. And there is a number of people that you need to look out from here. Guy Will Joglin on here that you have. There's the North East District Organiser for the Communist Party, and he was killed in Spain. These are the 10 men from Teesside, although a couple of them are not from Teesside, but these are 10 men from Teesside who were killed in Spain. And this is the very first, I say it is the very first International Brigade memorial produced in the UK. It's certainly the oldest. This one here is a fantastic. This is actually in Hutton Hall. The children that are sitting round and one standing are Basque refugees. There's 40 Basque refugees that were put into Hutton Hall for care after the Guernica bombing. It was 4,000 children were evacuated to the UK, and 40 of them were held cared for at Hutton Hall. When Tommy was wounded, he was actually shipped back home, and one of the first things he did was the Basque Refugee Committee. He was actually put onto that, and he actually accompanied the children at Hutton Hall. He also did the concert, and this is him holding the guitar. The lady here is Consolina Conto, who was a famous at the time flamenco dancer, and she toured the country. She was paid to do so, and she actually taught the children how to perform in front of it, because they weren't allowed to be a burden on the British taxpayer, so they had to raise funds, and they did this by doing concerts. There's a fantastic one, is that I actually had a couple of Fermi Magdalena, who's not in this, I keep turning around to it, apologise. Fermi Magdalena, who was one of the Basque refugees at Hutton Hall, and his brother Federico and his sisters Pilar and Julia were in the concert party, and they actually came to Billingham South School and actually talked about a time when the Basque children performed at the Cooperative Hall of the Theatre in February 1938. They performed. But this is actually Tommy in Hutton Hall performing with her. This is fantastic. And I've now got the pleasure. I'll do this first. Yes, I'll do this first, and then I'll put you on, Stuart. I apologise.
There's a bombing in North America, That's a place that we all must go. What is there we wasted our money on the most of our old world? From this valley they tell us we're leaving, but don't hasten to visit the for they know we make our departure. We'll be back in an hour or two, for we've found along the distant towers, and the marathon wreck on its way. Please do us this favor, take this last walk out through the gate. You will never be happy with strangers, they will never understand you or me. So remember the Quran of me, and those comrades who wait patiently.
There are three versions of Harama Valley. The original one by Sergeant Alec McDade, who was killed at the Battle of Brunetta when Tommy was wounded. The second version is Woody Guthrie does one for the Lincoln Battalion, which served in Spain, and the third version is a memorial version. The reason why I got Tommy playing that, and Tommy plays two of them, reason for that is that this is when he's first officer on the SS Empire Baffin, and he was first officer on the Baffin that went on PQ-16, which is an Arctic convoy. On the ship was a passenger who was the BBC correspondent, the only British correspondent in Russia, called Alexander Worth. And in Alexander Worth's book, The Year of Stalingrad, he writes about the voyage of the SS Baffin, and he spends 2 pages talking about Tommy Chilvers. And he gives an account and the lyrics saying that Tommy sang the song to him. So it was just one of those reasons that I wanted to play that one, especially for that one. And I've got the great pleasure of introducing you to Stuart Chilvers, who is the son of Tommy.
I was comfortable doing this till I heard my dad singing. I'm in bits now. Right, recover. Okay. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Tony asked me to write some personal sort of recollections about Dad. Bits. But I thought was appropriate at his funeral. His granddaughter, my daughter Jeannie, who was 15 at the time, wrote a piece, and I sent it to Tony. Do you think this will do? And he was pleased. So I thought, well, it gets me off the hook. I can just read that. Also, he's just mentioned the Alexander Worth Year in Stalingrad. I have the book. I'm actually going to read the several paragraphs about Dad. Tony's mentioned the circumstance of Alexander Worth. He was on the Empire Baffin heading to Murmansk. So I'll just try and sort my head out and read Jeannie's piece. The other thing I'm extremely pleased about is my sister's here, hiding at the back. The reason really is that I was an art student in the 60s and fled south. Came back, to see the family and all of that. Julie was here looking after Mum and Dad all the way through. And to be honest, I've never really given her the gratitude that she deserves for that time. I don't know if I'm going to get through this. Right. Carry on. So this is written by Jeannie when she was 15. Tommy. I'll always be able to remember him, shrunken with age, yet always alert, sitting behind his rickety old desk, the breeze from an open window fluttering his cluttered papers as he wrote out his life. As you come to the worn gate, you knew he would shuffle to his feet as it shut behind you with a familiar click. All would be made welcome. His wife, bustling around with the warmth of a mother hen, would make sure you ate until full. During the whole meal, he would sit talking away in his comforting voice to anyone who would listen. Tommy always had plenty to talk about, and even from an early age, I would sit and listen to his magical stories of peace and war, hatred and happiness. Mystery seemed to shape itself around him, and any impressionable youngster could picture the excitement and danger he lived through. Part of his life had been spent as a sailor travelling the world on the oceans, which shaped for him an immovable love for the sea. A love that he would pass down through generations. As a member of the International Brigade during the Spanish Civil War, he fought for the Republicans and democracy. This had a profound effect on his outlook of life, yet he was never to glamorise my story. The Second World War was different, however. He loved to tell of his experiences and was never short of listeners. Tommy always set the scene. In the middle of the stormy ocean, the sky heavy purple and the rain torrential. By describing the sounds of an overhead bomber, he could chill your very spine. As the bomb dropped to hit the deck and the audience waited with bated breath, he would gleefully describe how this bomb rolled unexploded into the lapping waves. I never doubted the truth of his stories, yet never forgot the twinkle in his eyes as he told this tale. As a youngster, he would take us down to his precious beach, determined that I would swim. There I would stand, knock-kneed and covered with familiar goosebumps, not daring to plunge into the freezing and unfriendly waters. Tommy would always stand behind me, urging me to go in and laughing, his refreshing laugh telling me I would make a terrible sailor. Often he would join me, his mottled body exposed to the sea, winds and cold waters. He would never hesitate. One splash and he was in. Floating on his back, bobbing around like a white sun-bleached driftwood. Swimming is the only way his health permitted. After he had been in long enough, I would have to grab both arms and pull him to his feet, allowing him to shuffle off and dry himself with his old and faded blue towel. I never thought of him as unhealthy, and at 70 he was still jogging the full length of the beach, arriving home with tinted cheeks and a familiar glint in his eyes. I remember a time I accompanied him on his run. He loved showing to people the beauty of the sea, the horizons, and explaining the movement of the ships. Every passenger by would stop and wish him good morning, and ask him what the weather would be or inquire about his health. He was always fine. Often he would sit and sketch on tattered pieces of paper or take great pleasure in attempting to teach me to draw. Tommy's art was brilliant. At Easter he would enter a competition to decorate eggs with pictures of Christ and donate them to friends and relatives. You could find nothing to touch its beauty, and the first prize was always his. As I grew older, I became more fascinated with his knowledge. He would tell me how he gave up his faith in God and placed his faith in people. To me, gone trip were his, such as wiggling his nose, as if by magic, to be replaced by history. Tommy had seen and discovered so many things in his life and had so much to tell. At the age of 11, he gave to me a battered edition of Our Mutual Friend, as I shared his love of books. The novel had been given to him by the ship's captain during a convoy to Russia in 1940. Actually, it wasn't. It was given by Alexander Worth, but we'll skip that. And it was 1942. Tommy was full of knowledge, anything from gardening to Marx's theory of dialectical materialism. He would show me family trees traced by him to find ancestral roots, and fill me with wonder with his stories of Vikings and Normans. Often I would look into his own wizened face and wonder how one person could know so much. The trouble was I expected him to live forever. On news of his stroke, I became filled with fear, a fear that was to prove justified a short time later. Yet throughout his illness he never lost his awareness. He carried on sketching, talking and teaching. His loss from this world was a terrible shock, but relief can be found in the knowledge he had shared. He was part of history itself and carried on living throughout the memories of others. Today you can still go down to his precious beach and look out over his beloved oceans. By seeing the world through his eyes, you can feel the love of life that he had. So that's Jeannie at 15 writing about her granddad. And what I'll do quickly now is these paragraphs from Alexander Worth. So you've got the background. Oh, I've pulled the pages now. You've got the background. So he's describing the crew. This is the initial part of the voyage. They've just left Middlesbrough. Then there was Mr. Chilvers. I don't know why they called him Mr. when they never called anybody Mr. There was something about him that inspired special respect. In civilian life he had been a docker. He had fought in the International Brigade in Spain. Perhaps it was that which made him something out of the ordinary in the eyes of the fellow seamen. I think Chilvers genuinely liked excitement and danger, and he also had strong political views, although I don't think he was officially a communist. Don't say too much about my having been in Spain to the captain, if he ever mentioned to me, he once said. You know these people are prejudiced. He was about 35 with a strong, intelligent face, a firm, well-shaved chin, and a Roman profile crowned by a greasy black cap, at least 2 sizes too small for him. He wore it at the back of his head, perhaps to hide his bald patch. I like this life, said Chilvers. When the convoy started going to Russia, I threw up my job and decided to go back to sea. I feel it's all part of the same show as what we had in Spain. My missus was very angry, but what the hell. Mr. Chilvers was taking 2 letters to Russia and showed them to me. One was from a parson, somewhere in the north of England, addressed on its envelope to the church authorities of Murmansk, in which the worthy man expressed his deep admiration for the glorious Russian army and said that he and his congregation prayed for them every Sunday and for their great country. It was rather touching. The only trouble was, as I said to Chilvers, that there was probably no church authorities in Murmansk. The other letter was from a schoolmaster, an old friend of Chilvers's. He had instructed Chilvers to give it to the first man he met on landing in the Soviet Union. The letter was an apology. It said that the British people were all heart and soul with Russia. and if it only depended on them, they could have opened the second front by now. But would the Russians remember that Britain was ruled by a class government essentially hostile to the Soviet Union? However, public opinion, bitterly ashamed of the government, would make its will prevail. I, for my own part, like every true friend of the glorious Soviet Union, etc., etc., I suggested to Mr. Chilvers that, although the Russians who saw this letter would much appreciate the letter's noble anger, they could not fail to be depressed by the comments made in it on the British government. Chilvers agreed it probably would have a depressing effect, and he tore it up. He put the bits of paper in his pocket. You're not allowed to throw paper overboard. It's apt to help the U-boats. And then there's just another piece, and I had it marked, but I've thrown it over right here. Okay. One evening, it was a day or two before we sailed. I think they're in Iceland by this point. Mr. Chilvers came into our cabin and talked about Spain and the International Brigade. Then, after some persuading, he brought his guitar, and in a fine, strong voice, he sang Spanish songs, and then a song written by a Glaswegian lad, Alec McDade, I think was his name, who was killed at Brunetta on the July 6, 1938, and whom Chilvers had known in those days, for he was also at fort there. It had a wailful, nostalgic tune, flamenco-like, and went, you've heard it. The wailful tune, sung in a melodious voice to the strains of the guitar, were odd to listen to in the middle of an Icelandic fjord, with British and American ships all round, and yet had not Harama been part of the same show, as Chilvers had already marked the first day, and Brunetta, where the 19-year-old Glasgow lad had died for the freedom of Spain. The steward joined us for his nightly glass of hot rum. He listened a little disapprovingly to Chilvers' song and muttered, "Twerp," under his breath. Thank you. You reminded me, olive oil. As a kid, he used to send me down to Timothy White's in Redcar High Street to get a bottle of olive oil. And I used to have to stand there and they'd be going, what, olive oil, what? And I remember a lady coming out from the back saying, "It's for the man." Thank you.
What you have here, and this is unique, is the unique document. We talk about Herbert's unique document from Spain. It's a unique document from the Arctic convoys. I work for the Arctic Convoy Museum up in Lochview, and as far as you're aware, there is only one. Sorry. Oh, I've not put the microphone on, sorry. Right, here we go. There we go. Right. I work for the Arctic Convoy Museum in Lochview, and as far as we're aware, there's only one diary actually written by. There's the official reports, but there's only one personal diary written, and it was written by Tommy Chilvers on PQ16. What you have here is the very last page. What you have there is Herbert Hodgson's diary written in 1942. It's the same one, more not the dead, more not the dead. The diary, Herbert's diary, is 1942. PQ16 left Middlesbrough on May the 9th, 1942. It's just one of these things that I spoke to Bob Begrim, he says it's one of these glitches in the matrix. It's just one of these really bizarre coincidences that we have. And it is an official one. And what you see here is that not only did he write accounts, and quite detailed accounts of what happens, is this one here, and it says torpedo attack on the Lowther Castle. The Empire Baffin, which Tommy was at the wheel of, was actually behind the Empire. It was actually behind the Lowther Castle. And during the torpedo attack, planes attacking, Tommy actually saw a torpedo in the water heading towards the ship. The orders were that they should not leave their station. Tommy disobeyed this order and steered the Baffin away from the torpedo. And it says in the accounts that the torpedo hit the Lowther Castle. And what is written here is, as I saw when I was at the wheel of the, when we swung. So he was actually steering the ship at the time. For this action, he was awarded the Order of the Red Banner by the Soviet Union, which is the second highest order of gallantry. The only other person that we have notification of a British citizen of having this is Anthony Burgess. And I would argue that Burgess was not a British citizen when he was given the Order of the Red Banner. As far as I'm aware, and we are aware, Tommy Childers is the only British citizen to be awarded the Order of the Red Banner, which was quite distinguished. And you're probably well aware that those who served on the Arctic convoys didn't get a medal, even a campaign medal, got no rewards at all. But these other pictures are also, this is Stockton, and this is obviously the Transporter Bridge. This one was this image given to me by Martin Levy, and this one was given to me by Alan Short, who was the grandson of George Short, who was a district organiser of the Communist Party. I could tell you lots and lots of other stories about Tommy, but sorry, I'm getting emotional there as well. So I'll move on. The last one that we're going to look at, that is a character that is in the book, is a guy called Miles Tomlin. I showed you this picture earlier. So this is Otto Essenson, this is Tommy Childers, and this is Miles Tomlin. And Miles Tomlin was also a member of the anti-tank battery. As you can see, next to Miles, it's actually playing a recorder. He was a world-renowned recorder player. He studied at, I've forgotten the name, it's not the Slade one because that's the art college, but some music school he'd actually studied at. And he wrote in Spain. This is got the permission from Stephanie Tomlin. This is a photograph of the recorder that he had in Spain. It's got the battle honours at the wall. It's actually held by the Imperial War Museum in London, so she's only got a copy of it, and I visited last summer in London. And I'm now going to read the poem. Now, just to tell you what this document is. This document is in the Russian archives of social and political history. When the Spanish Republic was defeated, the archives of the international brigades were sent to Moscow because it was organised by the Comintern. And in the archives actually photographed every single document, sometimes blank pages and things. And they did make them available online, but there's lots of problems with Russia at the moment. The British government have stopped us having access to these. But before we do that, actually got it. So this is contemporary. This was actually from 1938. This poem is written, and it's called England from the English Dead. To England from the English Dead by Miles Tomlin. We who were English once had eyes and saw the savage greed of those who made this war. Tear up from earth like a hog loose in flowers, so many lives as young and strong as ours. You, England, stood apart from Spain's affair. You said you were secure in sea and cliff, whilst others sank in filthy war, as if you kept some virginity in there. While the black armies marched and the dead fell, you told your English people all was well, and shutting eyes to war was finding peace. You told them once all slavery must cease. Dishonourable England, we in Spain, who died proudly, but not in your name. Our friends will keep the love we felt for you amongst your moist green landscapes and smooth hills. talk over honest windowsills, and teach our children we were not untrue. Not for those others, more like alien men, who, quick to please our slayers, let them pass. Not for them, we English lying beneath the Spanish grass. And that's it. There's other documentation on it, there's other characters in there that we have diaries and things from it, but these ones are some of the ones I thought I'd highlight and celebrate these men. I think we now have a short break. It's not compulsory to purchase anything, but the doors won't be unlocked until you have actually bought something. And we'll have a short break. And then, thank you.
Only two, so I won't keep you long. Just a couple about, one is about the Spanish Civil War. So I'm going to open up with Viva la Quinta or Quinta Brigada. It's, I think it was written by Christy Moore, so much after the war itself. The song is a tribute to the Irishmen who went and joined the International Brigades. So, this is Viva la Quinta Brigada. 10 years before I saw the light of morning, a comradeship of heroes was laid. From every corner of the world came sailing the 5th International Brigade. They came to stand beside the Spanish people to try and stem the rising of the tide. Franco's allies were the powerful and the wealthy. Frank Ryan's men came from the other side. Even the olives were bleeding as the battle for Madrid it thundered on. Truth and love against the forces of evil, brotherhood against the fascist clan. Viva la Quinta Brigada, now pass around the pledge that made them fight. Adelante is the cry around the hillside. Let us all remember them tonight. Bob Hilliard was a Church of Ireland pastor. From Killarney across the Pyrenees he came. From Derry came a brave young Christian brother. Side by side they fought and died in Spain. Tommy Woods, age 17, died in Cordova. With an Afiana he learned to hold a gun. From Dublin to the Villa del Rio, where he fought and died beneath the blazing sun. Viva la Quinta Brigada, ne pass around the pledge that made them fight. Adelante is the cry around the hillside. Oh, let us all remember them tonight. Now many Irishmen heard a call of Franco, join Hitler and Mussolini too. Propaganda from the pulpit and newspapers helped O'Duffy to enlist where came from in to support the Nazis. The men of the crop, they failed again when the bishop blessed the blue shirts in Dunleary as they sailed beneath the swastika to Spain. Viva la Quinta Brigada, ne pass around the pledge that made them fight. Adelante is the cry around the hillside. Oh, let us all remember them tonight. Now this song is a tribute to Frank Ryan, Kid Conway and Denny Cody too, Peter Daly, Charlie Regan and Hugh Palmer. Though many died, I can but name a few. Danny Boyle, Blasser Brown and Charlie Nolly, Liam Tomlinson and Jim Straney from the Falls, Jack Nolte, Tommy Payton and Frank Conroy, Jim Foley, Tony Fox and Dick O'Neill. Viva la Quinta Brigada, now pass around the pledge that made them fight. Adelante is the cry around the hillside. Oh, let us all remember them this night. Viva la Quinta Brigada, oh, let us all remember them tonight. Viva la Quinta Brigada, oh, let us all remember them this night. Viva la Quinta Brigada, oh, let us all remember them tonight.
Thanks for the name check.
Yeah, see, you didn't know you were a veteran, did you? Next song's by Woody Guthrie, and I'm sure most of you will probably know. It's a song about choices. In this particular version that Guthrie sings, it's a song. It's a choice which miners have to make, but it can apply to anything, any struggle, really. This is Which Side Are You On? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Oh, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's son. He'll be with you, fellow workers, until this battle's done. Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? A workers' Tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man? Now, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Come all you good workers, good news to tell to you of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on?
Sorry. Hello. How are we all doing? If you don't know me, I am JJ Fox, Tony's son. You might know it. It's called Dirty Old Town by the Pogues. I met my love by the gasworks wall. Dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall. Dirty old town, dirty old town. Clouds are drifting across the moon. Cats are prowling on their beat. Springs a girl from the streets at night. Dirty old town, dirty old town. I heard a siren coming from the docks. Saw a train set the night on fire. I smelled the spring on the smoky wind. Dirty old town, dirty old town. I'm gonna make me a good sharp axe, shining steel tempered in the fire. I'll chop you down like an old dead tree. Dirty old town, dirty old town. I met my love by the gasworks wall. Dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall. Dirty old town, dirty
do unaccompanied. You may know it. It's called The Rambling Rover. Please do join in. There are sober men aplenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men of over 90 that have never yet kissed a girl. But give me a rambling rover, from Orkney down to Dover. We'll roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. There's many that fame enjoyment from merciless employment. Their ambition was deployment from the minute they left the school. And they save the scrape and plunder while the rest go out and squander. See the world and roam and wander, and the happier as a rule. There are sober men aplenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men of over 90 that have yet been and kissed a girl. But give me a rambling rover, and from Orkney down to Dover, we'll roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. I've roamed through all the nations in delight of all creations. I've enjoyed a wee sensation where the company was kind, and where parting was no pleasure. I've drunk another measure to the good friends that we treasure, and were always in my mind. There are sober men aplenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men of over 90 that have never yet kissed a girl. But give me a rambling rover, and from Orkney down to Dover, we will roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. If you're bent with arthritis, your bowels have got colitis, you've got galloping molliculitis, and you're thinking it's time you died. If you've been a man of action and you're lying there in traction, you will get some satisfaction thinking, Jesus, at least I tried. There are sober men aplenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men of over 90 that have never yet kissed a girl. But give me a rambling rover, from Orkney down to Dover. We will roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Tony, for inviting me again. I'm just going to move this across a bit, because I like to look straight down the hall at that clock with the unusual clock with one hand. We should call it Kev. Sorry, a bit of an intro there. Okay, so I'm going to sing Woody Guthrie's version of Harama Valley. I've been criticised for singing this version before, but I love Woody Guthrie. You know, he's Woody, isn't he? I mean, you know, we all love a good Woody Guthrie song. So this is Harama Valley. It was written in 1938. Well, his version was written in 1930. I get too bogged down, too much librarian brain, you know. Okay, so this is Harama Valley. So please join in the chorus when you pick it up. There's a valley in Spain called Harama. It's a place that we all know so well. It was there that we fought against the fascists. We saw a peaceful valley turn into hell. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Harama, we will set set this valley free before we're through. We were men of the Lincoln Battalion. We are proud of the fight that we made. We know that you people of the valley will remember the Lincoln Brigade. Everybody! From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Rama, we will set this valley free before we're through. You will never find peace with these fascists. You will never find friends such as we. So remember that valley of the Rama and the people that'll set this valley free. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Rama, we will set this valley free before we're through. All this world is like the valley of Rama, so green and so bright and so fair. No fascist can dwell in a valley, no breathing on new freedom's air. Everybody! From this valley they say we are going, come on! But don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Rama, we will set this valley free before we're through. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Rama, we will set this valley free before we're through. Yeah, we will set this valley free before we're through. We will set this valley free before we're through. Thank you. So this next one is one of mine, and it's one I wrote about my grandmother's experience in the Second World War when she was a munitions factory worker up at Aycliffe. It was just called Aycliffe there, before it was Newton Aycliffe. And she would get the train every day from Middlesbrough and go to Aycliffe, to the munitions factory there. You can actually still go now. Strangely enough, it's a trampoline park with a big climbing wall in it. But they've lovingly restored it, but also kept some of the original features. So on the walls inside, where all the kids are trampolining and climbing up walls and jumping in massive foam pads and stuff like that, there's actually shells still on the wall that are displayed on the wall, and there's writing and stenciling from the women and from the people who ran the factory as well, so it's well worth a trip. They've also got a Blitz cafe there that serves proper good English wartime grub, corned beef pie and chips and all that kind of stuff. And they've got loads and loads of posters and pictures on the wall, so it's worth a trip. And when I went there, it was quite emotional for me, knowing that my grandma had gone there and worked there every day. I can't remember, I think it was 1941 or 42, the British government reinstated bank holiday rights for everybody. So that particular Monday, she wasn't at work, so she said, oh, I'm going to cook a nice dinner. She was in the garden peeling, she lived in Newport, she was in the backyard peeling potatoes. And she said she heard a plane coming over. She said the pan of potatoes went in the air. She ran in the house. And she later found out that day that the Middlesbrough train station had been bombed. It was a beautiful Victorian glass domed, it was beautiful basically. And the train that was bombed, and sadly 8 people were killed, the train that was bombed would have been the train her and her female colleagues would have got that day to Aycliffe. So if they hadn't have reinstated those bank holiday, then she wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't be here now and everything. So it's very, very close to home. None of these women got a medal. It's something I'm looking into to see if I can get a posthumous medal for her, because they were frontline workers and their jobs easily were as dangerous as people fighting on the front line abroad. But also, on the other hand, it was a chance for women to earn money. So they splurged a bit. A poet called Madeline Ida Bedford, First World War poet, she wrote a poem called Munitions Wages, and it kind of inspired this song, because she's telling women to, earn your money but spend it because you don't know what's going to happen. So this is called Spend Your Money Quick, and please join in the chorus when it comes along. When I was just a schoolgirl, I never knew what I would be, but I never thought I'd work in a munitions factory. Because the Canary Girls, 'cause we're yellow top to toe, the sulphur it gets everywhere in your skin and in your bones. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Now we're dressing in men's clothing, we're doing all their jobs. Though they pay us only half the wage, we're all still better off. Before I got my job here, I dressed in all the rags, but now I get to spend me cash on stockings, gin and fags. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Now I know my job is dangerous, I could be born to kingdom come, but just like our boys overseas, there's a job needs to be done. In Chilwell and in Silvertown, there were hundreds maimed or killed, but I ain't got time to think of them when the shells need to be filled. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Now I've only just got married, I've just turned 21. I should be making babies, but instead I'm making bonds. Just because I am a woman, why should I not do my bit? I fight daily in this factory and I plead by my wits. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Spend your money quick, girl, spend your money quick. Your next day might just be your last, so spend your money quick. Thank you.
Sorry, I failed to introduce Sarah Dennis. Most of you have already know.
Nice one, sir.
I've now got the pleasure of Pete Davies. Thank you.
Good evening. Right, this could be a bit random, trying to hit the guitar and the voice. Kind of feel as though I'm under false pretenses, because I know very little about the Spanish Civil War or the International Brigade, but having had a meeting with Tony a few months ago, it certainly piqued my interest. The only thing I do, I remember reading Laurie Lee's I Walked Out One Midsummer Morning. Is that the cracking book? Anyway, a couple of songs with links to conflicts. And this is what I wrote for two reasons. One, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the RAF, and the second reason was to commemorate my uncle, who was a pilot flying Shackletons just after the Second World War, who disappeared in the Irish Sea. It's called The Boys Have Gone, and it's thinking about these young lads who are just straight out of grammar schools or ordinary schools, who flew out of Lincolnshire and places like that on almost suicidal missions. Thank you very much. Suicidal missions over Germany. Dance is done, the boys are gone, the girls have all waltzed away. The brill cream shines still on their minds. Tomorrow becomes a new day. Who will be waltzing? Who will be weeping? Who will be lost in the fray? The dance is done, the boys are gone, the girls have all waltzed away. The girls have all waltzed away. Whistle tune, a bomber's moon, the boys have all flown away. The midnight chimes, the bombers climb, the boys are well on their way. Who will be dancing? Who'll be romancing? Who will have left this soiree? The whistle tune, a bomber's moon, the boys have all flown away. The boys have all flown away. Now I'm just fading away. You, my girl, I was your boy. Now I'm just fading away. Dance is done, the boys are gone, the girls have all waltzed away. The brill cream shine still on their minds. Tomorrow becomes a new day. Who will be waltzing? Who will be weeping? Who will be lost in the fray? The dance is done, the boys are gone, the girls have all waltzed away. The girls have all waltzed away. Is the voice or the guitar too loud there? Because I can adjust it perfectly by raising that up, lowering it down. It's fine. But here's a song that's from the viewpoint of a serviceman. Could be in any conflict, and he's just back from a tour of duty, and he's trying to explain to his very young children, who are too young really to understand, that he's got to go away again. And if you imagine being on Seaton Carew Beach or Redcar Beach, and this soldier, this airman, this sailor, trying to explain to his kids what it's all about. It's called A Soldier's Lullaby. Take this shell and listen, child, listen to the sea. Hear white horses dancing there, remember this of me. Take this sand and wonder, child, how many grains in hand. I'll kiss your cheek for everyone, pray you'll understand. Take these tears and taste them, child, salty as the sea. I must return from whence I came, pray you'll pardon me. Take this shell and listen, child, listen to the sea. Hear white horses dancing there, remember this of me. Remember this, remember this, remember this of me. There's not like a bit of misery on a Tuesday night, is there? Here's a bit more of an uplifting song to finish off with. And this one came about after my wife and I had been to visit Dubrovnik just before the Balkans conflict. And it's fairly obvious on a little trip that we did that something was going to literally explode. Very soon after we got back, the whole thing literally blew up. And it's a song that really points the finger at men, because you think about most of the conflicts around the world, they're caused by men. Look at Trump, what he's doing, what an idiot. The people who suffer are women, children and the elderly. And basically it's a song that says the good men and women should stand up and state their case. Pretty much what the International Brigade did. Do you know, I'm the only one who's not brought a drink of water to. I'm right parched. So all you've got to do is, it'd be great if you have a bit of a sing. And then we can all go home and find out who's won in the quarterfinals. And I don't want to know. If anybody knows, don't tell me. Oh, thank you very much. Cheers, all the very best. Right. So I'm going to sing is good men and women, good men and women, good men and women give shelter from the storm. When all the news beams in from every corner, it's hard to see much goodness in this world. When every mother's son, father's daughter are running from some evil that's unfurled. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm. Life is cheap and death fills every picture, an image that no sane man understands. When every mother's son, father's daughter are buried beneath the troubles of their lives. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm.
shelter from the storm. Pray for those who hide in desperation. Pray for those who cry out in despair. And all you see in every situation, dark and evil shifting as the sands. When every mother's son, father's daughter are tainted by the devil's dirty hands. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm. All the news beams in from every corner. It's hard to see much goodness in this world. When every mother's son, father's daughter are running from evil that's unfurled. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the storm. Good men and women, good men and women, good men and women, give shelter from the, shelter from the, shelter from the storm.
I couldn't do this without the support of, I'll do the in order the people that did. So there's Mike Wilde was helping us with Sam Wilde, there was Neil Cooney with Bob Cooney stuff. There's Elaine, fantastic about Herbert, and we've got Sean, Stuart, sorry, and John, I think John's gone, but thank you very much. And I can't thank Peter Leggen for supporting me on this. Sarah, as ever, fantastic. It's a privilege, Peter, thank you. I really do appreciate this. Thank you very much. JJ, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you.